I did. Okay, so before we get started, I want you to introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are, what you do, what genre you write in, and anything you want them to know before we get started.
Yeah, so my name is Monique Goode. I'm also known as Ashley up here. I started off as a bookish content creator, and I have been, this is my first go around writing. So I am writing LGBT, paranormal. I'm going to try and dip my toe in erotica, but my first book is The Cure of Us, which is a urban paranormal romance, which follows two lesbians, because I love a little lesbian love. And they have mafia family ties to vampire and human, and it's a forbidden love romance. So you get to follow their journey to building up their, moving up the ladder in the Washington family cartel, and the other one also navigating sobriety. And they come into it together unexpectedly, and there's a lot of fireworks, like a slow burn. So I'm excited to talk about this with y'all today.
I was going to ask you about the human hybrid situation you got
Yeah.
going on. Okay, so you began as a reader and bookish content creator. What was the turning point that made you say, "I need to write this for myself"?
Yeah, so it's funny because I actually posted on TikTok, I think back in 2023, I was like, where is like the urban sapphic genre? Because I'm loving the thugs, I'm loving the unhinged MMCs, but where is the studs? Because I'm a lesbian myself and I need some of that. And so I got a couple of recommendations, but some people were like, well, why don't you just write it? And I was like, I don't know about that. But then I got more inquiries. I was like, you know what, y'all? I'm gonna write it. So I had an epiphany, like a scenario in my head in the shower, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. So in 2023, I took everybody on my journey to writing. I didn't think I was gonna actually do it, but I ended up doing it because people started following, and I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I have to give the girls what they want. So I kind of like stumbled into writing this book, which is funny.
That's what's up. So,
Yeah.
was there a particular moment, book or experience that you told yourself there was space or a need for your voice in this genre besides, just not seeing it?
Mhm.
Was there a particular moment like you read a book and was like, you know what, this needs a little, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I don't think it was, well, maybe. So there's this book, I forget what it's called, but it's like it follows dang, what's the name of it? I can't remember, but it's like an Italian lesbian.
Oh,
And
I know what
you
you're
know what I'm talking
talking
about?
about.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
can't remember. The book is so good.
it
And I was
is.
like,
Giovanni.
Giovanni, yep. So good. And I was like, this is good, but where the black people at? Where the niggas at? So,
Hmm.
so I was like, man, I can't find it. A lot of people tell me Wattpad, but I need a physical book, like something that I can follow. So I was just scrubbing the internet and I couldn't really find any. I know there's some, here and there, but it wasn't a lot.
Yeah,
So and then I was like, I'm obsessed with like black vampires. So I was like, okay, what if I combine the two? And that's
yeah.
why I was like, okay, I have this idea of like pushing blood as weight. So I was like, all right, let's do it. So I was like, okay, we in there. So
I'm
that was
glad you
kind of like my
did.
aha moment.
I'm glad you did. Did stepping from bookish influencer to author change the way you experience the book world? Do you read differently now?
You know what I do? I think when I first got into it, I was like, I was just excited to see that because I started off reading fantasy. That was my thing that I
Hmm.
talked about.
Hmm.
It was like YA fantasy, and I was excited just to see these stories. But
Hmm.
like as I got to know more books, I got to know more authors and what their journey was like. And so as a reader, I have a different perspective, but I think as an author, I have a different perspective, like
Yeah,
even more like a 360 view. So
yeah.
I read with the intent of support because I always wanted support, but I think because I understand on the back end the hard work that goes behind being an author,
Hmm.
fighting and just all this chaos going on with just the political stance, that I'm
Hmm.
definitely being more intentional about buying physical copies versus an ebook or
Yeah.
supporting black businesses. So I think on the purchasing side, I definitely shop and read a little bit more differently than I used to before as just like a general reader.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Black queer romance is still fighting for its place in literary spaces, even with people like James Baldwin, Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni. Why is it so important for these stories, especially sapphic ones, to exist?
Cause we exist. I feel like there's so many, like, no shade to just like the people that write heteronormative stories. I love them. Like I love a
Hmm.
good choo choo town. But sometimes I'm just like, I need some like scissoring going on.
Mhm.
I need some LGBT. And so I feel
Mhm.
like I didn't see a lot of sapphic specifically. And I feel like because we can count on how many hands, how many authors, at least in the Black world that I see a lot of the same people, and I appreciate them paving the way. But I think it makes more room for us to build off of the people that we're standing off of the backs on. So I feel
Mhm.
like we need more of us. We need to have more people coming in telling these stories from different perspectives, whether it's a poly situation or a bisexual stance or a
Mhm.
trans stance. I think there's so many narratives
Mhm.
that we can collectively tell different point of views.
That's what's up. So
Yeah.
sapphic romance often gets minimized even with queer fiction.
hmm
What draws you to it? What gaps are you hoping to fill?
I think for me, what draws me to it is because it's my story too. Like being
Mhm.
just specifically a lesbian,
Mhm.
I feel like it's a charted path, but I feel like there's so many nuances to it. So like
Mhm.
I see a lot of like stud femme or masculine femme, but I don't see a lot of stuff for stud or femme for femme. So I think being sapphic is more than just one narrative, just like painted in the media, all we see is like the masculine and the feminine. We could tell so many different stories, whether it's she got two girlfriends or whether, it's a dynamic with a man or whether it's two
Mhm.
feminines or a stud and a femme. I feel like there's just so many different nuances outside of what we see in media and what might be told right now, whether you add a paranormal element, I think we can get really creative versus just
Mhm.
general perspectives.
I like that. So publishing has long been saturated with white queer stories and cishet romances.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think Black queer literature pushes back against the default narrative?
Say that last part one more time. How do I feel?
How do you think Black queer literature pushes back against the default narrative?
Hmm. I think just existing in general, right? Because I don't feel like palm color people want us here for real. And we
Uh-uh.
see that now. We've known that for ages, but like now we really seeing that action. Y'all really showing us who y'all are. We've been known, but thank you
Mhm.
for showing us. So I think by existing in general is just us pushing the narrative to show that representation, to show that we're here and you can't get rid of us. So we got to continue to make our own path and not worry about trying to get their recognition.
True. Do you feel like the industry genuinely wants queer stories from people of color, or is it still performative diversity when it suits them?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. I feel like, in my own personal opinion, I feel like it's an illusion of inclusion. I feel like they're just giving
Mm.
us the one token just to shut us up. That's my personal opinion, and I
Sure,
feel
that's
like,
my opinion too.
yeah, yeah. So I'm just like, I really feel like they're just like, here, just take it, just shut up,
Yeah.
because I feel like we know the certain people that have been able to get pushed as traditional publishing, but I feel like they just stop there. They don't give more people opportunities. So I love what we're doing in the Black literature space because we're creating our own, firms and publishing companies and PAs and things like that where we can make our own area because I don't feel like they really care about us.
Now, with DEI initiatives being gutted across the industries, what do you think the future of queer writing and storytelling looks like, especially for Black creators?
I think it's abundant, to be honest. I think every day I'm seeing a new business or a
Mhm.
new brand pushing forward by Black people pushing us forward. So I really
Mhm.
think it's going to be more independent authors. I think
Mhm.
it's going to be a lot more new Black publishing houses that are going
Mhm.
to traditionally go the traditional publishing route. So I feel like
Mhm.
we're going to start creating our own community like we are now and expanding
Mhm.
because we realize, okay, they not really messing with us for real. And I'm seeing these events popping up and it's getting me excited. So I think it's going to be abundant and there's no glass ceiling because unfortunately with the publishing traditional route, you have a ceiling. But I think for us, we're going to be able to grow in different ways and get really creative because we own our own narrative.
That's facts. So let's talk about why paranormal, why vampires.
Yeah.
What drew you to the darkness, the blood, and the myth?
You know what? I'm an imagination type of person. Like I've always been like a dreamer with weird ideas.
Yeah.
I always gravitated towards like the magical creatures, vampires. To be honest, like I have my own little fantasy about getting bit by a vampire. And I love a good paranormal. So I don't know. I've always been super imaginative,
Mhm.
and I was like, maybe I could go the regular route and make them regular humans. So I was like, no, let me throw that in there. So I was like, why not? Let's get creative. So I think I've always been just different in my thought processes.
Mhm.
So why not throw a little curveball in there of
You
paranormal?
definitely did. Your debut, The Cure of Us,
I think you
Blood.
froze, or am I frozen?
Am I froze?
Okay, you good.
Oh, your debut, The Cure of Us, Blood Money, Book One, is really rich in world building and mythology. Can you give us a brief synopsis without giving too much?
Ooh, okay. I've been trying to practice this because sometimes with being a new book, I'm like, I don't want to tell the whole story. I want to give y'all enough, just being real. So, a brief synopsis without telling. So, it is a forbidden love between Sage, who is the daughter of a kingpin, and Portia, who is the daughter of the head of the Vampire Society. And their families come together to fulfill a mission for the sake of helping heal humanity in their world. And so that's bridging the gap between humans and vampires, and they do not get along. And so on this mission, they are in each other's orbit, and they ended up finding that they're bonding over their trauma. And so we kind of see how that unfolds.
The virus, and what you have in the book, feels both metaphorical
Mm-hmm.
and eerily plausible.
Yeah.
How did that concept come to you?
Yeah. In the shower. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was. Like I'm a daydreamer, and something just came to me. Like because I was trying to figure out, okay, how can I make a street romance with like a street sapphic romance? And I was like, I could do the regular route, but then I guess one day in the shower, I was just like, oh, what if I have vampires? But what if like they were selling blood? So that was my first thought, and I just started building off of that, just using my imagination to figure out how it's going to go. But I was like, well, they have to have a need for the blood. They can't just be out here selling it. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, well, what if there's some type of like virus going around where they can't feed off of the humans? And so I kind of just began to build off of that.
Okay. So when building this world, did you approach it from the lens of how far would you go to save your people, or how far would you go for love, or maybe a little bit of both?
I feel like how far would you go to save your people? Because at
Mm.
first for me, like it was just gonna be straight up urban, but I think I wanted to have the romance element. So
Mhm.
I was like, okay, how can I tie these two together? So it was really
Mhm.
like, how much are you willing to go for your people? And then love came into play because it's like y'all ain't supposed to like each other. So how am I gonna make y'all come together?
It almost gave a little enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
It almost gave that little inch of enemies to love. Okay, Sage and Portia are complex. Goddamn. Um, they're layered characters. How much of you are in them? Are they inspired by real people?
Oh, so they're not inspired by real people, but the more and more I had to reread over it over and over again, I realized I put myself in it. So
Mm.
like just being that, like the dynamic in my family, I feel like I am the like not the black sheep, but I'm different. And so
Mhm.
I feel like in trying to seek validation and acceptance in my family, even just thinking about my sexuality and my own personal story, I think I
Mhm.
ended up weaving that into those characters because they're trying to
Mhm.
get the acceptance of a parent. So I just realized
Yeah.
that eventually I'm kind of telling my own story in a certain way. So
Mm.
I guess there was a little bit of me in them and then a little bit of just pure imagination.
Okay. Portia starts as this pampered vamp with a lot of growth ahead of her because of trauma. I try to layer this question without giving away too much. Why was it important to show her as misguided rather than bad?
I have to think about that. I think because I wanted to humanize her. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like the key part of me in my writing is to not only tell romance stories but tell the healing aspect of it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I wanted to humanize her so people can like feel seen, whether it's they've dealt with sobriety issues or they've dealt with healing from losing a parent or anything of that nature. So I wanted people to be able to connect. So I think it was important that I shaped her in a way that was relatable, but
Mm-hmm.
also in a way that supported her growth in the story.
I like that. Sage, Lord Jesus. Sage didn't want to be anyone's babysitter. Yet here she is. Did you already have her emotional arc mapped out, or did it evolve while writing?
It evolved by writing. What I find is that the story unfolds itself. Like I have
Mhm.
my key outlines of what I want to hit, but sometimes I be typing, I be like, "What?" Like I feel like the character, the characters be telling their own story. So sometimes I may have in my mind how I want it to go, but with
Mhm.
Sage, like it definitely unfolded in a way that was just like the keys told the story. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
in my mind, she's gonna be like this hardcore unhinged person. But I was like, no, she's not. How's she gonna want to move up the ladder? She has to figure it out. So I wanted to make her
She
a
was,
little militant.
bruh. You you made the vampire surprisingly grounded in normal human lives, kind of, while showing us the blood politics. Is
hmm
that, yeah. Why that balance?
Um, I think I wanted to show like the importance of needing the blood
Mm-hmm.
and how much it's needed because why are we actually going on this mission and why do we need this? So I had to show like the political aspect of it. And then
Mm-hmm.
I also think it's important that somehow we don't have to figure out how these people can work together. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I had to find a balance in order to push the story together because essentially it's a part of their experience, but
Mm-hmm.
with the love story kind of being at the forefront, I still want
Mm-hmm.
it to make sense.
Okay, the human vamp hybrid idea is so layered because, damn, I want to say something, but I can't because I don't want to give canon. I just, anyway, the human vampire hybrid idea is so layered. What inspired the twist on the vampire lore and the apprehension of that situation?
Oh, I can't say too much because
I
there's stuff
know.
coming
I
up.
just.
Let's just say you'll find out eventually, but there's a backstory to why there's so much animosity, and I can't say too much. So you're gonna learn more about canon in the future.
Okay.
But just say like their dynamic between Canon and his frat brother. There's more history there and hesitance,
I
and
could
you'll
tell.
yeah, so you'll kind of learn more in future books as to what the issue is and why there's so much. Yeah.
Cause
Well, yeah.
okay, the cartel dynamic between Canon and Kalia, that's how you say her name, Kalia,
Mhm.
is kind of intense because she's like, I know what he do, but I
Yes.
really don't want to know what he do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What made you want to entwine organized crime and with vampire politics?
Mm. You know what? I gotta think about that one. Honestly, don't know. I think it just came natural as an idea, but I did want the woman not to want to be with it. I think because she works in like she comes from the health field. I think
Hmm.
I wanted to find a way to tie her passions with his because I was
Hmm.
thinking, how are he gonna wash this money? How are we gonna actually get the blood supply? So I think that was the idea that came together. Like, okay, what if this was her profession, and this was his, and this is how we're gonna get it working. How we gonna get it going?
Well, I know you're gonna tell me no, but I'm gonna go and ask anyway. Will future books explore more of the vampire cartel tension or expand into new worlds, considering canon Phoenix situation?
It's gonna be more tension. It's gonna be more tension.
God damn, come on, man.
Yeah, I have to lay down the foundation, but it's going to be a lot more. But they're going to, I can't tell too much, but things are going to expand, but it's not going to happen so easily.
Okay, the daughters of powerful men trope is turned on its head in the Cure of Life. Like you've kind of flipped it. Like you had, I love it when characters make their fathers crazy. You show both Sage and Portia crushed under different expectations for their parents. Why was that important for you to show and help them evolve?
Yeah. I think because I'm shaped by media, but I feel like a lot of like drug cartel content focuses on men being the sole like lead of
Mm-hmm.
their cartel. And
Mm-hmm.
so I always see like, the kids being raised up to take over are primarily men. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
like, with women, I love a dominant woman, an alpha female, and I've been craving content in books that surround women led, women kingpins or queen pins, shall we say. And
Absolutely.
I was like, considering like the current state of that in content, I wanted to utilize that to show that women do deserve to have a right as a queen pin,
Mm-hmm.
but she gonna have to work for it. I don't want her to inherit it just because she's the princess or just because she's the child. I want her to have like I want her to be able to build up that character arc to be tough, to be able to run the company. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think it'll be more well deserved if she fights for what she wants.
So, what can we expect for the next book?
What can we expect from this book without giving too much away?
Lord Jesus.
Well, it's going to be a continuum for sure. You're going to get more of the Sage Portia dynamic
Mm-hmm.
and them navigating their new lives that they're coming into.
Mm-hmm.
We're also going to get to know Salem a lot more and more about him and who he is and his dynamic in the whole family cartel. So you'll get to
Mm-hmm.
know them on a deeper level, and then you'll also get to meet a little bit more new characters that help shape the Washington cartel.
Hmm. So, will you continue writing in a queer romance aspect, or do you see yourself exploring other kinds of stories in the future?
Definitely other kinds of stories. I got a lot of things in my brain that I need to get out. I definitely have I'm working on a why choose, like a queer why choose. This is my first time saying that. And then I also have like a fantasy in my mind, like a, not a YA fantasy, but an adult fantasy that I'm working on that's surrounding black women, black witchy, like who, like ancestral stuff. So that's something
Oh,
I'm hoping like further down the line that I could do after I finish this series. So I have a lot of work in progresses that I want to expand on.
so what do you want Black Sapphic readers to feel or walk away with after reading your work?
I want them to feel seen. And I
Mm,
want them to feel like they can create lives for themselves beyond what we actually see in everyday life. Because I feel like for myself, like Honey Girl was the first book that I ever read as a sapphic romance, and I felt
mm,
totally seen. And I felt
mm.
like I want that for every single reader, not only as like somebody queer, but somebody black as well. I just feel like, if you want to be a kingpin, be a kingpin. If you want to be more imaginative, shit. If you want to be a vampire, I don't know, but know
Yeah.
that our reach is limitless, and that
Mhm.
even if it's like mythical creatures or whatever the case may be, you can still be seen in these healing aspects of the person as they're developing in the book.
Totally. All right. Hold on. My computer is acting an ass right now. All right. So, what does it mean to you to um, be intimate about sapphic love in a way that often defies heteronormative definitions of desire? How do you approach writing emotional intimacy versus physical intimacy in your characters?
Yeah, I think for me, I pull from my own experiences
Mm-hmm.
and wanted to utilize that to inspire the buildup of the romance because I think it's more than just sexual. I know for me, I love to read some smut, but I'm like, if this is gonna be a well-rounded story, we just can't be fucking on every page.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to make sure that I built some type of connection there,
Mm-hmm.
especially with them both going through their own traumatic situations and trying to navigate that. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to figure out how am I going to bridge the gap for them? How are we going to build this connection? So I think as much as we love to see smut on the page, I think it's important to understand like relationships aren't just sex. And if this is going to be something, I need to figure out how to build that intimacy and that trust and the other elements within the relationship that may show up.
That's true. Now, queer romance is often seen as radical. Do you see yourself writing as an act of resistance, healing, or both?
I never thought about it like that. At first, I would say healing, but now that I think about it, I would say resistance too, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
there's not like they're not looking for us for real. Not only as a black person, but as a queer black person. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it is an act of resistance. It is an act of I'm gonna tell these stories whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Whether you want to take them off the shelf, I'm gonna still be selling my book. So I feel like that is definitely like the leading right now, just considering everything that's going on.
Yeah.
I also think
Absolutely.
healing too for me because I feel like writing has always been expression for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like being able to tell these stories is just like I don't know, me creating
Mm-hmm.
more things into the world.
In a lot of mainstream sapphic fiction, black and brown characters are either sidekicks or absent.
Mm,
How do you approach writing centering your sapphic characters instead of making them an add-on
yeah,
for the white narratives?
yeah. Everything I do is black on black on black. Watching, reading, whatever. All this, everything I consume is black, and so even coming into like this reader space, I feel like black romance, black anything is all about. So I think because that's just my point of view. That's what I'm doing. Period. Like I'm not adding nothing else. Y'all all finna be black, so I feel like no matter what, it's important that every single book that I write is a black lead,
Okay.
because we deserve that.
Facts. Do you feel there's a difference between writing a romance with queer characters and writing a romance that's inherently queer? And how does that show up in your storytelling?
What you mean by inherently queer?
Where it has queer elements, but
Oh,
people
okay.
are labeled it into the queer genre, but
Yeah,
it's not. It just have queer elements.
yeah. You know, when I first started writing, I was like, I didn't think about that, but I think subconsciously I was because
Mm-hmm.
I think I see so much of the tropes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what trope is that? And so I started writing, and then when I got closer to the end, I was like, okay, when I market this book, what's the trope gonna be? And so I think I made sure that everything was queer and that
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't going to be over sexualized because I think I want people to see the romantic aspect of a queer relationship
Mm-hmm.
and know that it's real and it's not all about being sexualized. Nothing wrong with that. Like I love a good, everybody tells from different perspectives, but my intention for this book was the romance element. And I didn't want it to just be based off of attraction or based off
Mm-hmm.
of sex. I wanted it to be like a real strong, intimate relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was the importance for me for it to actually be queer and not just like, oh, there's the queer best friend or,
Yeah.
like a situation that they're just exploring. I wanted it to be like a serious relationship.
Yeah. What are some cliches or tropes in sapphic romance that you love to use? And which ones do you try to subvert or avoid?
Hmm. I love forbidden romance. I don't know. Something about like I don't like you. Oh, no, I like you, but we can't be together. I like that strong, burning passion and desire.
Mm-hmm.
I also I love paranormal anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I really wanted to include that aspect, especially vampires. It's like my favorite type of mythical
One of them
creature.
biggest. One
Yeah,
of them biggest.
exactly. And one that I try to steer away from, I don't think I intentionally try to steer away from it, but I think I'm afraid of dark romance. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if this is considered dark romance, but I think for me, like, I haven't dipped my toe in reading it yet. So I don't know how far we go because I see so many things, but I'm also like, is this dark? Is it not dark? Maybe it is dark. Like, maybe, I don't know. So maybe it is dark romance, but I think as a reader, I tried to challenge myself and I haven't
Mm-hmm.
really dipped my toe in dark romance. And so I'm kind of scared there because I don't know how far it'll go. Well, I think I try to stay away from that in my writing, but also it probably is dark romance. So, don't even know.
So how do your sapphic characters navigate love when they're rarely seen love like they're celebrated or validated? With this administration, they are hard pressed on queer anything. So and they're hard pressed to get rid of it in any type of library,
Mm-hmm.
bookstore, whatever. So how do your sapphic characters navigate love when they're rarely seen love in this society?
Got you. Hmm. I think just being themselves out loud. And
Mm,
for my characters, I think it was important for me to make it normal that they're queer
mm-hmm.
because I feel like in society, it's not everybody's story, but I know from my story and people that I do know, it's not accepted in their families. So I think for
Mm-hmm.
me, the bare minimum for this book, I didn't want to deal with the gay struggle, us
Mm-hmm.
dealing with trying to accept, them as they are. I wanted them to already be like whole in who they are and have their family support
Yeah.
and kind of go off of that, because I feel like the story was, my intention wasn't as like a coming of age or finding yourself. It was just, this is just who we are. So I think just by being them, that is just pushing, boundaries within whatever agenda other people may have with not trying to accept queer stories or identity.
I like that answer. Do your characters ever wrestle with identity and love? Now, y'all, I read the book. I just wrote my questions more so for everybody else
Yeah.
instead of me because I ain't want because I would have gave away the whole motherfucking story. Um, do your characters ever wrestle with identity and love, like the intersection of blackness, queerness, femininity, and how do you write through those complexities?
Hmm. So they don't really struggle with identity, but accepting love for sure, because they
Mm-hmm.
both came from traumatic experiences, whether it be like dealing with past relationships and toxic situations, like Portia's in the toxic relationship. She's coming from that. So she's
Mm-hmm.
learning to trust herself first before she can trust anybody else. So she's struggling to accept love and feeling deserving of that kind of love. So you
Mm-hmm.
kind of see her navigate building trust within herself to build trust with her father to then building trust with her relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
then with Sage, I think it was also trust too. I think learning to build trust with her father and letting him know that she's worthy of that trust. So I think building love, like not gaining the love, but building that trust factor and strengthening that bond between every dynamic, whether it's with the parent or within each other.
Mm-hmm.
They had to learn how to build that, build that
Mm-hmm.
bond to push the story forward.
Do you find yourself writing happy endings for your sapphic characters as a form of reclamation or rebellion, or are your love stories more layered than just a happily ever after?
Mm. In the beginning, I wanted to be the happily ever after kind of girl. But as the story as the story unfolds, I'm finding that I'm like, my bottom line is that love always wins. So I feel like
Mm-hmm.
as long as there's queerness in the book or queer dynamics in love, it's winning. And I realize that that doesn't always have to happen in like every single book. And I feel like too, for me, like writing characters that are healing, I think love also can be yourself. So I think for me, I'm learning like my narrative is probably not happily ever after, especially when I enter the urban romance space. Like shit gonna get crazy. So I'm realizing like my style of writing, I don't want to niche down that much, and I'm just gonna let the story be told how it wants to be told.
Okay. Sapphic love can be soft, dangerous, complicated, and freeing. What emotional what emotional tones or themes do you try to amplify most in your queer relationships?
All of it.
Uh, all the above.
All the above, especially in the book, because I feel like, oh, I don't even know, like all of it. Because I feel like relationships are dynamic. They're
Hmm.
not just girl meets girl and they fall in love. Like we have to have a challenge. We have to have a reason to fight for the love, especially just fighting for yourself. So that was something that I wanted to touch on every single dynamic in the situation. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Okay. So, because, I'm trying to trip you up on some of these questions. I just want
you
FYI.
can do it though.
No. No, I was trying to write questions that didn't come off harsh, because a
Yeah.
lot of people get offended when you talk about queerness.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but yeah. But I was just trying to have a balance here.
Yeah. No, I like the real questions.
When you write sapphic desire, how do you make sure it doesn't get reduced to just performative or the male gaze? Because men, anything woman on woman,
Yeah.
they all for it. They
Yeah.
don't even see the complexity. They just see, oh, it's meow meow versus meow meow. That's it. That's all they see.
You ain't
So,
lying.
so when you write your sapphic desire, how do you make sure it doesn't get reduced to that?
To be honest, I don't be thinking about what men gotta say. I'm not gonna be honest. Like, no tea, no shade. Like, I just be like, I want to see what I'm putting what I want to see and what I feel like is not being told. So I don't
Mm,
even think I consider like the male gaze. So I just try
mm.
to focus on like what would I want to see on this paper? What is something that we don't often see? And so if they find interest in it, then cool. But other than that, they're not my target. So I don't really be thinking about it. But that is a good question.
They said we do it for the bitches.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is for the women that like women, you know?
So, in The Cure of Us, how did you explore power dynamics between Portia and Sage, romantically, sexually, and politically?
Ooh. So to be honest, they're very similar to how me and my wife are. My wife was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of inspiration in Sage's character
Mm-hmm.
because I love being loved and being spoiled, and I kind
Mm-hmm.
of take the princess role in a sense. And being spoiled, and I
Mm-hmm.
kind of take the princess role in a sense. So it actually, like, my own situation inspired their dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
and then I guess just letting it flow naturally from there, like how I like to see dominant women in the cartel industry, how I like to feel protected, or how, like,
Mm-hmm.
even readers, like when I read a lot of these stories, the one element that I love is seeing that the main character is going to be riding and protecting the female character. So I love that dynamic so freaking much. I love, like, they're finna go balls to the wall for this girl. So I guess using my own situation and just inspiration from other stories that I've read, because you gotta be the protector. If you don't ride, we gonna ride out. So
You cannot play about her.
yeah.
Um, do you believe all queer love stories should be explicitly romantic, sexual, or do you find power in subtle forms of sapphic intimacy?
I think I would say there's power in subtle and softness too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even when I think about YA romances, because that's what I started reading, the queer romances. I think just seeing the intimate side of it, other than the sexual side, really helps you understand, like, the richness in their connection.
Mm.
Yeah. So
So, what's your process for writing queer sexual tension that's rooted in character and just aesthetics or trope? Because a lot of people just do aesthetics and trope. They don't really dive deep into the
yeah,
intimacy of it all.
yeah. I really don't. Yeah, I don't look in tropes for real. I think for me, I love to study and research. So, like, if I'm writing a certain story, I like to write. I like, for example, if it's for this story, I did a
Mm-hmm.
lot of research on, like, cartel situations or watching sapphic romances to understand what the character on screen is experiencing when they're feeling feelings. And then kind of pulling from, okay, let me put myself back into a situation that I was in, or a sexual experience that I had, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of get into that element and tell the story so I can evoke those feelings and really feel them in myself to put them on the page.
Mm. So, how does being a queer Black woman shape what stories you choose to tell and how you tell them?
I think just from experience, to be honest. I think like, it's different when you're telling, like, when I'm telling a different story that I have never experienced, it probably requires a lot more conversation and research and things like that, because I have another story that I'm writing that I'm going to have to talk to some people because I don't know that lived experience. But I think
Mm-hmm.
coming from my lived experience, I'm able to pull from that,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a way that I can connect with other readers because they've had similar experiences, or maybe they can see something in that reality. So just utilizing my experience and maybe other experience I have witnessed, to be inspired to put it in the book.
Okay. There's been a trend of, uh, I don't even want to say it's diverse queer romance because it's really not, but it's being written without being authentic. And how do you stay intentional in your storytelling?
Hmm. I guess just, like, having my why as to why I'm writing the book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's what keeps me going, because sometimes, like, when we're doing something and we're setting our path to achieve a goal, we forget why we're
Mm-hmm.
doing it, because this journey was not easy
I bet.
and it's expensive. And so I had to remember, like, my why. Like when
Mm,
stuff goes left or I have a block, what is my why? My why was because I felt like, there's a gap and I want to fill it and I want to tell these stories. And I even have
mm.
people follow me on my journey. So I don't want to let them down because they're like, girl, when that book coming out? And so
That's how I
that
want to
was,
be about book two.
listen, they already talking about it now. The ARC reader was telling me, I'm like, the book ain't even came out yet. But like just remembering my why and setting that intention to keep me going so
Yes.
I don't forget about give up or be like like I don't want to do it, this is hard.
Yeah.
Just remembering why I started in the first place.
How do you feel that? Because I know we discussed the publishing industry. Do you feel that the publishing industry really understands, which they don't, but what sapphic romance readers want, especially Black ones?
you know It's a very layered question. I don't think I can give you one answer, but I feel like if I were to think about like the main publishing houses, I
Hmm.
would hope that whoever is over that, I don't know how it works in the publishing industry, but if there's somebody who's an agent that's looking for something, I would hope that they're like having conversations with people that are looking to read these stories or people with these lived experiences. I don't really know for sure, but that's what my hope would be is that they're actually that they're actually having these conversations. But more than likely, probably not. Like being from a reader that, and I'm trying to find options of books to read outside of indie authors. I don't really see Black
Yeah.
queer experiences. I have to rely on my indie people, and I love them so much for breaking that mold. So yeah, absolutely not. Not in traditional publishing.
Nah, nah. How do you want your books to challenge what's typically expected in sapphic romances or in queer romance?
The happily ever after trope.
Duh.
Because I feel like I wanted that to be my thing, but I think I actually want to challenge it a little bit. There's nothing
Mm.
wrong with that, but I feel like I love a little drama. I love a little hard work, so that way when we do get to that happily ever after, y'all gonna be like, "Yes, it's well deserved. We've been waiting." So I think that's my intention. Actually, my new intention that I realized working on book two is just like things might go left, and that's okay. And I think for myself too, right now, I'm like, I
More
don't
left than it already went? Wait,
I
what?
can't talk too much.
Wait a minute. What? Yeah.
Anyways, I just at one point I felt an obligation to have happily ever after stories, but then I realized sometimes the story got to be told how it's gonna be told. So
Oh my God.
now you'll see. Fuck you'll see though.
You just made my heart drop. Like what? Okay. If someone was to pick up your book and never having read a Black sapphic romance before, what do you hope they feel by the time they turn to the last page? Besides frustration.
I hope that they feel something. I
Mm,
think I want people to feel feels. I think it's important to me, no matter. I don't care if you didn't like the story.
mm-hmm.
Personally, I feel like you decided to pick it up, and I'm happy that you even gave it a chance and that you felt something. Whether you laughed, whether you cried, whether you was pissed off, whether you wanted to throw the book across the room, whether whatever it is. I hope that you feel something in the book.
Mm. So, who are some of your favorite Black queer or sapphic writers, even book based as characters, TV or film, ones that inspired you or just felt real to you?
Hmm. So it's not well known, but I think on YouTube there's these lesbian web series. There's
Mm-hmm.
like this whole genre of lesbian, like urban lesbian street shows online on YouTube. And so I grew up watching them, and there's one called New York Girls that's really good, like stud films, all types of stuff. There's another one called Between Women, and so I grew up watching them because I don't see none of that online. Like, but there was a lot of like filmmakers and script writers that are lesbians and queer people in the community that are telling these stories online that are not well known unless you're probably in the community, specifically in the Black space. So that really inspired me of like seeing the different dynamics there as well. Um, Favorite authors, like I love a good poly read. So I
Ooh.
love Tana Tales. That's my girl. I love her. I'm definitely newly on. I love Tati Richardson. I
I
love
was
her
waiting for you to
books.
say it.
Yep, I just read the opportunity. Ain't come out yet. I can't say too much, but I love her so much. Um, who else? Um, I'm in my Jockwell J era right now. It's not
Me
queer for
too.
real, but got me in a chokehold.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, I have a whole bunch, but those are the ones that come off the top of my head.
Okay. Okay. So, with that being said, where can people find your book? How can people best support you as a new author? And can you break down what it's like being an indie author for the first time?
Yeah, so you can find The Cure of Us on Kindle and paperback on Amazon. It's also available on KU. And you can support me by just reading the book and leaving a review, whether it's on Goodreads, Storygraph, Amazon, and share it, tell people about it. And as an indie author, what's it like? It's kind of fun, to be honest with you. I was a little scared because I hear a lot about the downside of it, just the financial
Mm.
support, being pushed. But I think because I get to be creative my first time around,
Hmm.
I think it's limitless because I hear of stories about how people feel like they have to finish a book in a certain time frame. But I think for
Hmm.
me, I can do my own creative path. I can take my
Yeah.
time playing the story, and there's no, publicist over my shoulder like you shouldn't say this, you shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
And I think being able to do that my first time around creates limitless bounds for me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. 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 Now, if you could collaborate with one author that is dead or alive that it wrote that was known for their queerness, who would that be and why? And what type of story would y'all come up with?
Hmm. You know what? I love me some ML Bash, and I love
Hmm.
I love like I don't know the way that she tells stories in a depth, like the depth of the romance, because she does a lot of polybooks as well,
Hmm.
and she gets down to like the such intimate part of it and the sexual part of it, and she also does paranormal and urban as well. So I would love to collaborate with her if that were ever possible.
I would
So
love to see
give
that
my
shit.
shot, you know what I'm saying? I know how y'all be coming out with series and stuff like that and anthologies, so I
Mhm.
think that would be cool to collaborate with her.
Ooh, I would love that. Okay. So what are you going to do this year or next year to let people see you outside marketing your book?
Yeah. Making myself uncomfortable. Like just putting myself out there. Also used to like sitting in front of the phone and just making a TikTok. But I think it's important for me to like put myself out there, talk about my book more.
Hmm.
I'm in Charlotte, so I'm going to try to do a lot of book signings where I am locally because I'm so comfortable online. Like I love the conversations
Why
and the
haven't you
space.
signed up for the Boozy Book Tour Raleigh?
I don't know. I'm a little scared, put myself.
Why are you?
But I need to. I need to. I need to. I just saw it today. I was like, oh, they in Raleigh.
Yeah.
So definitely going to more events. I'm going to the Black Romance Book Fest. I'm going to be a part of
I
the
saw that.
Street. So my goal is to actually like pass out stuff that have my book on it to make myself uncomfortable. So
Mm.
just out really telling people about it and talking about it outside of being online and just getting out here locally to the bookstores and things like that. So yeah.
Yes, yes, and yes. Yes, please do. Because it's a good book. Like I said, I enjoyed it. It's a
Yeah.
good book. We were just talking about we needed more black sapphic romances because it's hard to fucking find.
Yes, you gotta search. You gotta come through it.
Yeah, because I know Joy Minor. She has a whole plethora of sapphic romances, but it's just like, and it was another author, but she said she found God, and so she don't do that no more.
Wow. Well, let me plug some sapphic authors. I know Erica Alexander. She's an author. She wrote
The Down South
Down
Bayou.
South Bayou. Yeah. Who's another one? Mika James. I think she's well known as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who else? I think Aria Days, but I think she does a little bit of queerness and a little bit
Mm-hmm.
of different stuff. But We got to get more people out there, you know,
Yeah.
more conversations. And I saw you're having that roundtable for the
Yeah.
Sapphic and Queer, so I appreciate that. We
Yeah,
need more
I'm gonna have a
conversation.
queer publisher there, and I was gonna ask you, while you're here, I was gonna ask you, would you like to be a part of that roundtable? Because I will have a queer publishing house there, and you are a
Yes.
new author, and I like people networking.
Okay, yeah,
So if I
I'm
can
down.
connect with somebody, I'm all for it.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to.
Yeah, so I'm the panel is looking up. I'm just trying to get Terry Benton Walker to do it because he's
Okay.
busy, but he is a queer author, and I wanted people to see it from the traditional publishing side. Even
Mm-hmm.
though he's a YA author, he does put queerness in his books, in his
Nice.
fantasy books.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I think it needed to happen.
Yeah, I think so
It,
too.
especially when dealing with black queerness, people try to put us under the white gaze a lot.
Whew. Yes.
So, I'm bisexual. I'm not I don't, and I'm very I ain't gonna say alpha because I hate that word. I'm very, like, because the strongest bond is a sigma bond. So call me sigma. I am very, very strong and dominant, but they always try to put us under the white male gaze type thing.
Yeah.
I'm not a butch.
Oh.
Don't ever call me that. Don't ever, because that's not a black term.
Yep.
So it's I just want people to understand more about the romance aspect of it, just the queer existence. There's layers to it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's well deserved. I think I appreciate you and want to give you your flowers because you're doing it for real. Like I really appreciate it because I think, especially when trying to bridge the gap between publishers and authors, and it's really hard to get in there. So you creating that space is
I'm
dope.
trying. It's a lot of pushback though. It's
Really?
Yeah, it's a lot of pushback, and it's not so. You would think it'd be the publishers. It's actually the authors. It's a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
People are intimidated by the fact that it is publishers because they are looking for traditional publishers. They don't see the indie publishers as a leg up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
'Cause they're like, oh, that's still indie.
Yeah.
That's a publisher. You
Right.
know, so they're looking for the bigger ones, and I'm not finna. Actually, I wouldn't have them on my show.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
would. This is all about indie. So yeah, nah, I'm good.
And
So
it's
yeah, I can't push back like that.
yeah. But yeah, I would love to do it. Actually, I'm excited.
Okay, so it is the date of that is the 31st. That I wanted to do it on the 30th. It's on the 30th because I wanted to lead into um the LGBT Gay Pride Month.
Oh
I wanted to,
yeah, yeah,
even though they don't want to recognize it, I still do.
yeah.
So I wanted to lead into that with this.
Okay, period.
All right. So I love that you promote indie authors. Yeah, it's all about indie authors. I have nothing against traditionally published authors because even they have to go through stuff,
Mhm.
sitting in their blackness and whatever that may look like for them. They still go through hell with these people.
Yeah,
So they don't even get what they deserve.
yeah, definitely. And who's gonna ride for indie office? Like we out here too. Not everybody's it has a publisher, and maybe that is the goal. But
Let me ask you, from your bookish content creator experience, how do you feel, and now as an indie author, when you hear someone saying, yeah, this person is trying to make me pay for a review, this person is trying to make me uh pay them like $100, $200 for this review just to
yeah.
review my book? Now, how do you feel about that?
You know what? I actually had a conversation with myself before I came an author. Like, how is this a thing? Do I want to navigate it? Because I think content creators do deserve to be compensated for their work, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I think reviews should be authentic. So I know me personally, I don't charge for reviews
Mm-hmm.
or charge to read a book because I feel like I want to give you the real. I want to give you a review because I genuinely love the story, and I think
Mm-hmm.
charging feels like an obligation, and I
Mm-hmm.
never want to come off fake. I always want to be authentic with the books that I'm pushing or telling people about. So I mean, if they do that, that's perfectly fine. But I think for me personally, I wouldn't charge for a review. I wouldn't even want, as an author, to pay somebody for a review because it just doesn't seem real.
Yeah,
They like
yeah.
the story, they genuinely like the story.
I always say that when you receive an art, that's payment
True.
to
It's
me
strange.
because it costs so much money for authors, indie authors, to get it edited, make it,
Mm-hmm.
covers and whatever.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's more of a payment compared to the monetary thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
said this yesterday that when you guys give us our art, you are also helping yourself as well as helping the bookish content creator
Mm-hmm.
because they are helping you get your book seen, but you are helping them if that book blows up.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I think, and it's really tough in the book influencer space because it's like, where's the mutual exchange? But I agree. Like, I feel like by reading the book or getting the arc and you doing the review, that's we're
mhm.
supporting each other whether we know it or not. Like, you're creating the content, people are engaging, and then from there, maybe you would get brand opportunities or things like that. So it's just we have to get really creative because I ain't gonna pay for a review. I ain't gonna hold you. That's just me personally, but to each his own.
But people need to understand the difference between a review and promotion. Promotion is
Mm-hmm.
something that you're constantly making videos about and getting
Right.
paid for. Reviews are just reviews.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. That too. Because I mean, you could get paid to promote. You could get paid to just open, a box or something like that. That's different. But a review, I don't know.
I've been paid to make a video about a book and just promote it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I've been paid to do that. I've
Yeah.
never been paid to do a review because I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't come off genuine. And a lot of
Exactly.
times people don't even put in their review that they were paid to do
Mm.
this review.
And who knows if it's a good review?
Because I ain't about to sit up here and do no review for some book I don't fucking like.
You're right. I will talk about it, but I ain't gonna review it.
Right. Y'all will see a book one day and it'll never appear again.
Oh
Because guess
Lord.
what? I'm not doing a review for it. That's just how it is.
That's real though. That's about reading. Reading is subjective, and you want to keep it real.
So how do you feel when people say that reading is not political?
I think they on bullshit. I saw that going around. I don't know when it was. I was just like, how is that even possible? Like, I just feel like being black is political.
It
Existing.
is. It really
Like,
is.
I think they're living under a rock, and a lot of times it's the palm colored people.
It is. I
I
mean,
think
it's
that's all.
it's some skin folks that ain't kin folks that are out there saying it, unfortunately. But yeah, it's pretty much the palm color ones. So you have authors like Dr. Emily Rath, who is going through the
Mhm.
wrath of the conservatives
I
right
saw
now.
that.
How do you feel about her expressing how her queerness is dear to her, her bodily autonomy is dear to her, and she just refuses to be in a situation where she has to conform to conservatives just for them to read her book?
Yeah, I say good for her because at the end of the day, authors are still people, and I think people forget
Mhm.
that. They think they're just reading these books and it's just some invisible person putting them out. No, there's people behind it. It comes from our brains, and I'm not about to. I don't write books for the Trumpers. I don't write books for these people. This
Mhm.
is it's a part of my who I am because I'm telling my story through these
Right.
characters or whatever the case may be. And so, I mean, I stand with her because you gotta support yourself, and there's people that support you. I can't make everybody happy. I don't care about y'all's opinions.
Yeah. I've read one book from her, but after seeing the series of videos, I have purchased everything.
Yeah, I know that's right. I haven't read a book yet, but I have to look into her catalog because,
I
girl.
purchased everything. I was like, what? Okay. Because I love somebody who stands on what they believe in.
Yes,
I
yes.
love that. Now, before we get out of here, I want you again to say your social media handles. I want you to tell anybody. Are you getting a website, or do you
I
have
have a
one?
website. Yeah.
Okay, tell them your website, and if you're going to sign up for an event, sign up for it,
Okay.
and tell them about you being at the Black Readers Book Festival as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Monique Good. You can follow me here on TikTok at good.reads or on Instagram at by Monique Good. You can go to my profile and follow my links in the bio, but my website is moniquegood.com. And I will be at the Black Romance Book Fest on Saturday. We're doing the content creator meet and greet. So if you're out there, come holla at me. I know tickets sold out fast. But
Girl.
you're gonna be there. It's at 4 o'clock, and I'm giving out goodies to the first 5 people that I meet. And I haven't signed up for any events yet, but that is my goal from now on till forever. So